What's going on, YouTube? I'm Alex Desea, and this is actually the first video I've ever made, the first video I'm putting on YouTube. My goal here with this channel is really to just use it as a platform in which I can discuss my favorite films, TV shows, games with all of you. With that said, let's get right into it. I thought we'd begin this channel, or this whole thing off, with one of my favorite trilogies of all time, Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. These films are so meticulously crafted, they're so emotionally driven, and they're so masterfully helmed. You know, they're the vision of a collection of people, and the result is just something beautiful. It really is. It's easy to see why these films have become the example of how to do a superhero film well. A superhero film that asks you to look beyond the comic book and more into the, adult, mature themes that the film is trying to portray. What I love about these films is that each one builds off the previous one. They never compromise their established themes or character arcs for a wild, goofy narrative. The films are very complex, but they're very focused. They're focused on one main thing, which is the journey of Bruce Wayne. This story really takes its time getting you to care about Bruce Wayne before we get to see him as
Batman. And a lot of great superhero films are like that. They get you to care about the actual person behind the mask.
Now, making a Batman film leaves you a plethora of source material to work with. But what I find very interesting about this take on Batman is that it treats Batman like a bad thing, at least for Bruce Wayne. You see, Bruce Wayne has always been very angry, and the anger has always been accompanied by paralyzing fear as a result of witnessing his parents being gunned down, partially because of him. And he seeks to do something good with these emotions that have been kind of driving him this whole time. This fear and anger led him on a journey of self-discovery, discovering the Batman persona within him, and it allowed him to do something good with these negative things in his life. Bruce Wayne doesn't seek to protect Gotham City from tangible threats, although he does this. His goal at the onset of this whole thing was to inspire the citizens of Gotham City to stand up against corruption, evil, so that fear doesn't ruin their lives, doesn't consume them like it consumed him. At the onset of this film, Gotham City is very dreary, it's unpleasant, it's a disturbing place to be. It's only when Batman discovers the Batman persona inside of him and he uses it to become a symbol of justice that the people become less afraid of their city. They become more inspired by heroism. Ultimately, being Batman takes a toll on Bruce Wayne, physically, mentally, emotionally. Bruce Wayne doesn't attempt, he knows that he can't be Batman for the rest of his life. It's too much. He really wants to reform his city so that it could become something better. The idea for Bruce Wayne was that Batman could really be anybody. Anyone can stand up for what is right. Anybody can be a good person. He becomes a symbol. He's not just like a vigilante. And in the trailers, they all kind of, you've heard, what happens when you become more than just a man. You become a legend. And Batman is a symbol. He's not a thing. He's not a tangible thing in the movie. Batman himself can't do this. He can't just change the entirety of Gotham City. The people have to, cease. The people need an example of justice. And once they begin to reform, then the city begins to reform. And that was always his goal. And that's really cool because it makes for these films, it allows these films to end. And that means that the films don't just go on like forever and ever, kind of like the MCU. There's 3 films, a beginning, a middle, and an end. Having this goal in mind from the beginning, where he just wants to change the city, and of course Batman becomes entangled with the persona by The Dark Knight Rises, but again, we'll get to that too. I just love how they have this vision of what Batman wants to accomplish. Bruce Wayne can ultimately use the Batman persona as like a stepping stone. It could lead him to maturing beyond the need for Batman. Damn it, these movies are just great. Well, that's enough background about the movies themselves. Let's talk about Batman Begins. Everything about this film is great. I love the casting. Christian Bale as Batman is great, I'm not gonna lie. But I think Gary Oldman as Jim Gordon is probably the best portrayal in the whole in the whole series. Heath Ledger and Tom Hardy, everyone is great. Everyone has really, none of these films have bad performances in them. Gary Oldman as Jim Gordon is just so fucking good. Alfred's relationship with Bruce Wayne, it's great to see that, you know, because Alfred never really supported Bruce Wayne's efforts in becoming Batman. He kind of knew how destructive it would be, and he was right. It's great to see their relationship start and kind of become this one of, not like you're like a father and son, one of just like a respectful friend, you know. But they're not friends. You know what I mean. The scene where Bruce Wayne's parents die always makes me cry because it's quick. It happens so quickly, and it feels very real. There's no background music. It's just a gut punch, you know. Just the raw impact of what this means for this kid who's now alone. This kid who had everything, but now he has nothing. It's a very, very good scene. The film's antagonist, there's a couple of them, but the main one is Ra's al Ghul. Cruel and merciless, and you know, his character really clashes with Bruce Wayne's moral ideology of never taking life. Where one seeks to lift humanity up, the other undermines it. Ra's is cynical about humanity, Bruce is optimistically hopeful. I love how we get a real good origin story of Batman or Bruce Wayne. We get to see him train, and we get to see him as a kid. We get to see him grow up and learn how vengeance isn't the answer, and seeking that wanting something more, and wanting to really understand the criminal underworld. I mean, that's what happens. He goes to see Falcone, and he's like, "You'll never understand this world because you're rich. You don't understand how we feel, why criminals do what they do." So he goes and he kind of lives a criminal lifestyle. I love the score by Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard. Hans Zimmer is one of my favorite film composers, and his work on the Batman theme, I mean, it's such a simple theme, but it's so fucking good. This film really made him a flawed, tragic hero, as opposed to just this like goofy comic book character. One of my favorite scenes in the entire movie is the "swear to me" scene. You know, when he's interrogating Arnold Flass and he's holding him up by the building, and he's like, you know, pegging himself to be this God almost. Where he's like, don't swear to God, swear to me. I'm the one who could literally kill you right now if I wanted to. It's just perfect. You know, it's very, very Batman-esque. The action is okay. I mean, you know, this is a 2005 film, so rewatching it in 2020, it's like, all right, we've seen better action, but the thing about this film and most Chris Nolan films is that the action is all in camera. Most of it is real. There's not that much CGI, so I appreciate that. As a film lover, I can appreciate that, and I don't mind if the action is a little silly and the choreography is a little bit off. But again, it's not bad by any stretch. But I think at its core, the film is really about coping with debilitating anger and fear and things that we all go through. A lot of us are fearful and angry as young people, and you realize that life is just stressful and a lot of shit gets thrown at you. But it's all about, you know, how you deal with it and how you can, you know, face adversity and rise above it. This film is also about coping with tragedy, obviously, and how pain really is necessary to progress through life. You need to be in pain. You need to go through tragedy. I'm not saying like you need to have your parents gunned down. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying in order to really grow and I think really become the strongest version of yourself, you need to face adversity. And this is a great film that portrays that. Batman gets lit on fire, he gets poisoned, he gets beat the shit out of. Like, he goes through hell in this movie. And of course, it's different. I mean, it's a superhero film. But to the average person, yeah, you're gonna get beaten down sometimes. You just gotta keep getting back up. Well, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. I'd be very appreciative if you did. Stay tuned.